August the 4th, 2025, I'll call this special meeting and board workshop of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We will have roll call. Joe Mireles here. Brian Kufal. Alvin Chapa here. David Garcia here. Jacob Perez here. Delma Salinas
Here.
Joseph Reese here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We will move to a moment of silence followed by the pledge of allegiance and the Texas pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Move on to item number 4, public participation. Do we have anyone that wishes to address the board?
No, sir.
Okay, move on to item number 5, new business. 5A, discussion and possible action regarding full adoption of the FNCE local student conduct, personal communication device, and electronic devices can be found on pages 3 through 9. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Board President, Mr. Reese, Board of Trustees, Dr. Garcia, Dr. Martinez. I'm here today to present a revision to FNCE local. This is due to 89th legislative session that was just recently held, and things need to happen. The one that I'm presenting to you today, I've got 4 different policies. The first one I'm going to present to you today is regarding students not using their personal communication devices during the school day. Again, this has to be approved by September the 18th, but I wanted to bring it this week. We got our draft last week from TASB. I wanted to bring it to you at the earliest convenience so that we could try to pass it before the school year. So I'm asking that the board consider waiving the first reading of the policies that I'm bringing to your attention, so we can try to get them 1 by the deadline and 2 before the start of the school year. So the first policy, FNCE local, basically allows or requires us to put together a procedure for allowing students to bring their phones to school, but keeping them out of use or keeping them out of their hands on the school day. So our policy has been written so that we do allow students to bring their phones, because there's going to be instances when kids need to have their phones in their possession, such as before school they walk to school, or after school they walk home, or they need to provide care for other siblings, or they go to extracurricular activities. So the guidance that we gave TASB to draft our model revisions were based on that those policies or expectations. We didn't want to completely tell parents and students not to bring their phones for whatever reason, because we need students at some point we're going to need their phones. But our guidance and our policy that we've written is students will not to have it in their possession at all during the school day. Not during passing periods, not in the bathrooms, not in the cafeteria. Our policy is written that we don't want students utilizing phones in the school day. Do we have the presentations, Mr. Fabian?
So Dr. Sandoval, they can still have them with them, they just can't turn them on.
Yeah, they can have them in their possession, but they can't have them where they're usable, or they can communicate any kind of messages to their smartwatches. Smartwatches aren't allowed, either tablets, either headphones. Those are all the things that are expected. We did make that very specific. We did make that very specific in our board regulation. Attach a copy of the regulations to the policy at the back of the policy. Those board regulations do not require board approval. But we wanted to make sure you saw that and know what will be the expectation and the consequences for students that do violate the student policy or board policy.
With regards to intent of the law, do we mean the requirement of the 89th legislation and that particular
Yes,
law?
sir, Mr. Reese. The two questions that they ask you when drafting the policy is, the first question is, are we gonna allow phones in the building or not? And the question was yes, going back to the initial statement I made, we didn't want to take those phones away from the kids initially. The intent of the law is to keep phones from not being used during the instructional day. So the students will be required to keep them in their backpacks. The consequences that we put in our administrative regulations does require the students to keep them in their backpacks. After the first offense, second offense, there'll be different consequences. I believe after the fourth or fifth consequence, or you know, the student will be required to put in a school district approved bag that will be distributed to them every morning that they bring their phone and have in their possession. If the kids violate the policy again, they will be completely banned from bringing phones on campus. So what we're trying to do is prevent students from missing instructional time while also following the letter of the law as written in the legislatures. So we want to make sure that the students aren't taking away that privilege, but we also want to make sure it doesn't interfere with instruction, which is the primary reason why the legislation wrote the law as written.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Martinez, Board of Trustees, I have reviewed this policy. Keep in mind that this is combined with administrative regulation. That's very important. In this instance, we would normally see a very robust board policy that really fleshes out everything. But with something as dynamic as phones and the campus needing to adjust to certain situations that require the student to have phone, it's important to have a strong regulation behind it. So you really have to read those two things together to get the full holistic approach of how the district's addressing phones. So this is the policy component to it, and if you read it and think, well, this might not be substantial enough, it's because it does need those regulations to fill those gaps.
So any questions regarding the policy? Again, I am asking that the board consider approving this with one reading instead of having to go through the two reading process, just so that we have it ready for next week at the beginning of the year. We are ready to push this information out beginning tomorrow on the regulations and the policies, so parents know fully what the expectation is moving forward. And I know we put some information out there previously in the beginning of the summer, but we want to give a specific expectation moving forward now that the board, and once the board approves this policy.
On the exceptions, I know this kind of 504 and positions order, who is determining whether the student needs to inspect it or not, so they can bring it up? You know, somebody that's got a medical need, would it be the nurse, or who's determining?
Primarily is going to be the ARD if there's anything specific to instructional needs. The ARD committee will have that authority to make those decisions. Also, there'll be circumstances where the principal may have to make a determination, but we have put in our regulation that any extenuating circumstances that is allowed will have to go to the superintendent.
But if they're not special needs, they're just regular students, but they have some type of medical issues, who's gonna determine whether that's valid or not?
That'll be a principal determination.
Board, we just making a clarification when, before we arrive at the conclusion of what consequences should be administered based on violations of policy, we brought in all the principals, all the assistant principals, and several district level employees, special ed to needs to human resources, curriculum instruction, etc. We had a robust conversation about how to implement this in a responsible way. And so based on that conversation, those same questions arose. And what we said is we want to follow the policy because it's a legal mandate, while at the same time leaving flexibility enough that the principal can determine extenuating circumstances, right, that don't conform to the norm, such as the one you mentioned. In addition to that, I think another consideration is when the students are completing applications and they have to do the double verification process. So the principal is going to instruct the teachers to communicate to the principal so that it's a control, and supervised endeavor. And so we're looking into those, procedures which will be addressed in the regulation that we will draw together.
Do we have any other questions from the board?
Dr. Martinez, are you comfortable with what's been presented as superintendent? You feel that, we know it's gonna be a couple of hiccups in the beginning, but you comfortable with the approach and the direction that we're going with this policy, with this?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. So I am, to answer your question directly, we also share the policy of several districts and it varies, right? But based on our conversations again with our principals, et cetera, we feel confident that we are putting some teeth to the policy. But we also want to enlist the support of our parents. And so we want to ensure that we provide enough notification to the parents so the principals are developing their own communication scheme to ensure that the parents are well informed, the students are well informed. And as you said, we will have some hiccups because this is new and our students have gotten so used to using these electronic devices without, self-control. And now we're asking them, we need for you to first exhibit self-control. And so we will be watching and mindful of how it's developing and working with the principals to support them. Yes, sir.
I have one last question. In the past, there was a monetary charge for the annual checkup. Is that still to be the case?
I don't think it was an option available to the policy.
Do you have a question? Okay. Okay, so, do I have a motion to accept, the first and second reading? How would it go, Nick?
The adoption of.
The adoption of, the FNC local student code, student conduct personal communication device, / electronic devices. Motion made by Martin Chapa,
I'll second.
Go ahead.
second by David Garcia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to item 5B, discussion and possible action regarding the full adoption of FD local admissions. Can be found on pages 10 through 13. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. This policy actually goes hand in hand with FM local as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and read that FD local, and I'll read FM local, and then the board can decide how to proceed with those two revisions to the policies. So FD local adds that students enrolled in a private school or homeschool not to be eligible for concurrent enrollment in the district, nor for participation in curricular or extracurricular activities. By choosing this option, the district is opting out of allowing private school and homeschool students from participating in curricular or extracurricular activities. In the past, I think it's been 4 years now, maybe 5, where the districts, this was available to students that were being homeschooled or private school, but the district had to opt in to this, or opt in so the students could participate in UIL. Now, the new legislation has required us to opt out of allowing students that were private school or homeschooled to participate in UIL events with the district. So what we're bringing before you today is the option of the district opting out of allowing private or homeschool students the option of participating in our UIL events. We did check around with local districts, and from our understanding that no surrounding districts are opting in to allow their students to be, or the people live in their residencies to be part of the UIL events. So that's what we're proposing today. We feel that if the students were participating in our district as active students, then they should participate in UIL events. But because they're not, we're proposing the option of opting out. Any questions?
So what is it, negative, why is it, what are the reasons are we on? Financially, is it burden for us financially, or?
In speaking, because as Dr. Martinez mentioned, this conversation was brought up as well with our athletic director, and we asked for his feedback, and Mr. Mendez as well, because they have a large group of kids that participate in UIL. They felt they wanted to make sure that, one, we're providing for the kids that are actually coming to KISD. If they're opted out, going to private school or homeschool, they're not participating in our instructional program. Two, they're concerned about if we have to opt in or opt out, or let me go back, allow these kids to participate in our program, it does add to our numbers, participation numbers, which could participate or increase our attendance numbers, which can bump us up to possible another classification in the foreseeable future. How soon could that happen? I don't know, but depending on enrollment, it could bump us up.
That would be a problem, because what about the no passing rate? How would that affect them? I mean, it doesn't apply to them?
Don't know the specifics on that, how that would apply, but that was kind of discussed on what, how we keep track of that, because parents, if they're being homeschooled, provide the instruction. So how would that factor into that no passing rate?
On the financial side, you have students that are not garnering ADA, and we are still paying for them to participate in extracurricular activities. They're not generating any revenue, but we still would have to pay for them for extracurricular activities.
But you said the law that we're validating here is essentially asking us to opt out.
We have to now choose to opt out. If we don't opt out, then they automatically are eligible for all the events in the district.
Have we had any parents in the past, ask for it?
I tend to hear all parents' complaints for the most part, my department, and as far as I know, the last 4 years, we haven't heard any come and ask. But again, we're limited to very few private schools here. They go up to third grade. I mean, not even third grade anymore, I think it's kindergarten. And the others would be homeschooled. So as far as I know, none have come to me for that.
Any other questions? Okay, so, do I hear a motion to adopt the FD local admission as presented by administration? Motion made by David Garcia. Second by Delvin Salinas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
So go ahead, sir.
Okay, moving on to item 5C, discussion and possible action regarding the full adoption of FM local student activities. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. So FM local just added a 2-sentence line for eligibility of a private school student, including a homeschool student to participate in extracurricular activities. See FD local. That's the policy we just approved. So just making reference to the last policy we just adopted.
All right,
We have to prove it too.
Yes, that is part of it's a 2-part adoption for this policy.
okay, so do I hear a motion to accept the full adoption of FM local for student activities? Motion made by Jake Perez. Second made by Mr. Mireles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now moving on to item 5D, discussion and possible action regarding the full adoption of EFB local instructional resources, library materials, can be found on pages 16 to 23. Dr. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. EFB local is the last policy that we have to approve before the school year starts. This policy update requires the district to opt out of creating a school library advisory council or committee that is required to review all library materials that are available to our students in our school libraries. This policy does need to be considered by the board on whether we're going to approve or not. It does require that the advisory committee represent 10% of our student population. So we have 2,500 kids, that's 10%, 250, either 250 parents represent this committee or less, the lesser amount, which is 50 students. So it would require, or 50 parents, 50 student parents. So 50 parents would have to be part of this committee to help review our library resources to be considered for, to be placed in our libraries. So there's already a regulation in our policy that allows for parents that have concerns about library materials to question them and to consider them being removed from the libraries. So the option is, do we keep the same procedure we have pretty much with just some of the language being changed? Or do we go to having a school library advisory committee, which will help review that material in the event they have any questions or concerns about any material that being placed in the libraries?
Who, who oversees the libraries? Because I know we did away with librarians years ago. So like, who would be the one in there to actually oversee this committee, oversee the materials, maintain the materials, you know, ensure that the students are using them?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm gonna touch on that a little bit because the policy that's written does make reference to that, Ms. Salinas. In accordance with state law and administrative procedures, parents or guardians may submit to the principal or a staff member that has been designated by the principal a list of library materials that the parent or guardian child may not be allowed to check out or access for the use of the school library. So the library, the principal does have authorization to determine who that individual may be on that campus. When we do have a request being made by certain individuals, parents, community members, because it does open up the people that can ask for things to be removed, it opens up, it makes it a little more broader. Even community parents can ask for that to be done. It doesn't have to be just specific to, hey, I don't want my child reading this book, but they can make a request and say, I don't want any kids being able to read these books. But that information has to go through a committee that is formed at the campus level, and if that campus level upholds the decision or the request being made, then eventually it may come to the board to make that decision. But again, there's a process at the campus
And I
level.
can,
for them to
yeah,
make a
I
decision.
can see that, Dr. Sandoval. However, if we don't have anyone in there manning the library, who's gonna take advantage of it? You know, yes, parents can say, I don't want my kids to read these books, I want these books read from the library, but who's overseeing it? We don't have an individual in there to run them. Kids don't have the flexibility to go in and read books or check out books or, you know, so, I mean, why are we even messing with this policy if we don't even have librarians?
Well, our library, students have access to our library.
But who's in there manning it? Like who
Do we have
mans
a
it?
certified librarian anywhere in the district? Because I thought we were supposed to have at least
I
one.
know, it doesn't make sense. No, they
Currently,
did away with it.
I can answer part of that question. Currently, we have Rebecca Perkins, who's in our CNI department, that is overseeing the libraries for the district. She is not a certified librarian, and we do not currently have a certified librarian. We had one originally at the high school, who is no longer with the district. What we do have is paraprofessionals that are, their oversight is from Rebecca Perkins, and she does direct and meet with them, and she's helping right now this love lady with the new library construction that's happening at Harrell. So to answer your question, no, ma'am, we do not currently have a certified librarian, but Rebecca Perkins and CNI oversees the current library.
And I can see that Dr. Bessonais, that she oversees it. However, libraries would consume an entire day. You know, if we have one individual that is manning all of them for the district, how can Rebecca do her job and oversee the libraries? You know, I mean, honestly,
Well, I thought that, did we get a waiver to not have a certified librarian? Unless things have changed in the last few years, we had to have at least one, and we used to have, I think, two. One retired and then one resigned, but I always thought that we had to have one, like a charge nurse type thing, RN or something, you know, that worked under that license. I didn't know that we could go without a certified librarian in a library. That's my question. I'm kind of confused on that.
Let me, currently we do not have a waiver for that. I believe also if they have a read specialty, that they can go that, I have an information about it.
important. And if we're gonna be approving policies and having the state-of-the-art library at Harrell, but we don't have librarians to even man these. So how can students even take advantage of these books? And how can parents even, how can we even bring a committee together to say, these are the wants and, you know, this is what they want and need and whatever, but who's gonna make sure that that really happens? I mean, I think we're cheating our own kids.
The policy specifically states the process for challenging a book, the process of submitting that challenge. It will go to the superintendent will push it back to the principal to select a committee, and then the committee will review the request and what is specifically being asked to be challenged. So that process is not really in question in terms of the policy. I get the question you got regarding who's gonna man the library is a different
I mean, we're gonna approve that
conversation.
policy, but if we don't even have these libraries up and running, how are we gonna prove it? If we don't even have our libraries up and running.
Well, we do have to, you know.
Well, I
pass
think
a
the
policy.
idea is you have to
We
have
have to have a
policy that when the community member comes up, I don't want this book, I don't want students reading this book, we have to have a process in place, so, but, you know.
I think we just open the door to.
It's a definite good question, Ms. Salinas asked, but that's definitely a staffing question. I'm looking at policy,
Right.
it's written, and we need to determine, you know, is this the policy that we want to approve, or do we want to go back to the drawing board and look at the policy to not opt out, you know, of this requirement of having a school library advisory council. The policy does have a procedure, you know, that's that's a different option of having a committee. But if there's any books that are being in question or any reading material that a parent or community member or even a district personnel, staff member may have questions about.
So if I may interject, President, members, I think what is being considered at this time is whether we opt out from forming a committee, right, for this purpose. We currently have policy to address challenging of specific materials, et cetera. This is always parents' discretion, right, what my child reads. And so we really have policy on that. However, to answer your question as to who mans the libraries, who controls when the students check out or not, the policy as stated currently calls for the superintendent to develop administrative procedures. So I'll look into that and see what needs to be put in place to determine when the students are allowed to go to the library, who is there to help them check out books, and that way all this will come in place. So I will look into that. Yes.
Did I understand you correctly that you said that the committee has to consist of
50.
If you create a student or a school library advisory council, what I saw, Mr. Pettis, was it needed to be a representation of the smallest amount, right? Either 10% of your population, which is about 2,500 kids, which is about 250 kids. So you'd have to have either 250 parents or 50 parents. The smallest number, right? So ours would be 50 parents as to be part of this school library advisory committee.
Do you think that would happen?
Well, that
We
part
have
of,
charge and we don't even have plans for it.
yeah, you know, and what legislation did was wanted to give parents an opportunity and districts an opportunity to allow, whether we opt in or out, parents to have an opportunity to have a voice in the selection of reading materials. But in policy, there's already those options. But what they did with the policy that we selected is they did add a little bit more teeth to the parent option, or the option of district personnel, parents, or people that are just part of the community to be able to question or challenge any reading material that's in the libraries. So even though that if we're opting out, it's still making the process a little bit more difficult for someone, or not difficult, they give them a little bit more opportunity to challenge a book. Because it used to be the old policy that is gonna be out on no matter what. It used to be that when a book was being challenged, the book was still on the shelf. Now the policy reads that if it's being challenged, that book has to be taken off the shelf during the process of challenge. And then if the book is challenged and then the board upheld, goes against the challenge, then that book can be reviewed for another 2 years. So it's added some teeth to the process.
Have we had any parents, do that?
As far as I know, again, those complaints are gonna me, but because it's a curriculum and instruction, it might have gotten Dr. Bestman, do you know of any?
They've never
situations
challenged
like that?
anything, any kind of books.
As far as I know, it hasn't.
So do you think we can get a committee of 50 parents if we kind of build our parental involvement?
I
among
can
it?
just tell you from our experience with the Shack, we struggled with getting information, parents to participate in the, what is it, the school, the school health advisory committee, that we struggled. And so if we try to get anywhere near 50, I think it'd be difficult. But we're not saying that parents don't have a voice
Right.
in this process. Again, this policy does have some teeth, they're adding some more teeth to it. We're just saying the option's gonna be the process we have now, but with more options for parents.
Do we have the numbers, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
do we have numbers of our parents that have participated in PTO, PTA type organizations?
We could get those numbers, Mr.
I'm just thinking, because I'm going back to what
That's shy.
Mr. Pettis had mentioned earlier, is are we even gonna get, I'll tell you something, we get one book. If parents don't like, you're gonna have the whole parent, they're findings, maybe that's what we need, parents need to get involved with this, but
What are your thoughts, Dr. Martinez?
As the policy states currently, any parent has the opportunity to challenge any book. So that is already in place. What this will do is bring a big group of people looking at the totality of the books. But if I disagree with a book my child is reading in a specific class, I can follow this procedure, this policy that is already in place. So we're not taking away that right of the parents, right, to be partners in education with us and challenge any material they might deem offensive or inappropriate or whatever the case might be. The process will still be. The only difference is that instead of having to conform a committee, right, for the review process for the books, we will still have what we currently have, which is parents individually challenging or notifying the school. I don't want my child to see that. And I can give you an example. I dealt with that once where we unfortunately had a student who accidentally shot a sister, and the English teacher was using a movie that depicted that kind of reality. So the parent specifically asked for her child to be removed from that activity. And as is stated in the policy, we provided an alternative, right, activity for the student not to fall behind academically. So that will always be done. What we are asking you to consider is whether we opt out from having to form a committee every time we have to review materials. Because of what many of our staff indicated, not that there has to be the rules, you gotta work on that, right? We gotta build stronger partnerships with our parents and our community. But based on the assessment that they were discussing, getting participation might be challenging. That's where we are.
So to approve that, we felt that.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
And there's still procedures and process in place, Ms. Salinas, where the books have to be vetted and recommended to the board, and you still have approval of those things. So we're not taking that away. We're just trying to, we're still just, we want to opt out of not having to actually form that committee for them to review the materials.
I can appreciate what you presented, and as far as the other side of that, the policy going into the personnel side, I really think we had a heck of a librarian here for years, and for reasons that he left or outside of his library duties. So I feel that moving forward, I think we need to really look at getting somebody certified in that, and at least one certified librarian at that caliber that we used to have. because, he did everything. And unfortunately, things came up that were outside of his duties, and that's why we lost him. So we need to keep them in a library position, just like we do everybody else. We don't take them completely out of their job description. So that's something to go forward in the future. We're talking about it in that.
Okay, so do I have a motion? Any more questions? I have a motion, for full adoption of the EFB local instructional resource slash library material. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Delma Salinas,
Second.
second by Jake Bettis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. The board will enter into closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-071 and 551-074 to deliberate and consider the following. Item 6A, discussion regarding the 25-26 employee compensation plan. Item 6B, discussion regarding naming a new interim superintendent. Item 6C, consultation with legal counsel regarding administrative consulting contracts. And item 6D, consultation with legal counsel regarding legal and personal matters. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are entering into closed session at 6:06 p.m. session. We now return to open session and take necessary action on matters which the board may discuss in open session, upon which action may be taken. We are returning to open session at 7:41 p.m. Move on to item 7A, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025-2026 employee compensation plan. I make a motion to table this until the 18th. Is there a second? Second made by Delma Sabinas. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to item 7B, discussion and possible action regarding to name interim superintendent. Do we have a motion to name Dr. Luz Martinez, the interim superintendent for KISD?
Second.
A motion made by Martin Capa, second made by David Garcia. Nick, do we have to also dissolve the current interim superintendent contract, or
No, so I've been authorized.
we've been authorized to do? Okay.
Yes.
So motion made by Martin Chapa, second by David Garcia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. At this time, I'd like to say a special thank you to Dr. Santa Paula Gama Garcia for her leadership in the transition from our old regime and to the new one. Thank you so much for your valiant efforts. You did a fantastic job during your tenure.
Well, thank you back. I spent the last couple of days with Dr. Martinez, and I can tell you, I told her she needs to mentor me. We're gonna mentor each other. I'm confident you're in good hands, and I appreciate how open she is for feedback, how open she is to make this community align with the vision of the board and make this community the diamond that it can become. We're talking about diamond in the rough. And I know that her experience and leadership will put you on the path of where you need to be. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And also congratulations, Dr. Martinez. We look forward to having you, and we can't wait to see all the great changes you're gonna make for our district.
Thank you, board president and board members. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the honor and the privilege to serve the Kingsville ISD community. The road ahead is going to be very interesting, but we have the right people and the team and the ganas to get it done. So with your support, we're moving forward, and we're going to make this district really, really, really awesome. In all areas. We're awesome in many areas already, but we also have to work on the academics so that our public persona can change, and we're going to work on that. I want to take this opportunity to also thank Dr. Gama Garcia for working with me in this transition. Her advice and support has been invaluable. And so thank you, Dr. Gama, for serving the Kingsville community and passing the baton on to me. Thank you.
All right. Now moving on to item 7C. Nick, can you help me with that language, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I would need a motion to authorize legal counsel as discussed in executive session.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Jake Perez,
Second.
second made by Mr. Mireles, Joe Mireles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 6-0. Now moving on to item 7D. There were no actions, so no motion is necessary. So I adjourn this meeting at 7:45 p.m. and we move on to our board workshop. Thank you.